It's an update to my wife admitted she cheated on me. Well, this has officially been the longest and hardest week of my life. After my wife came home to talk for the second time after the affair, and the first time we both had time to think about it on our own. I have spoken to close friends and family, a handful of counselors over the phone, and a large portion of you guys on this subreddit. I have had a lot to think about, and so has she. Her job keeping her away from home turned out to be a good thing for us both. She arrived yesterday morning and we talked things through. A few people recommended that I record the conversation. Most people were concerned that she would try and pull something to trigger allegations against me. Others said to do it so I could use it as evidence against her and report her to her higher-ups in the military. Having an affair is a terrible decision on her part, and I may not know her as much as I would have liked to believe, but I knew she wouldn't do something like that. I did it anyways, just in case, but more importantly, I did it for myself so I could revisit her answers if I needed to, which is exactly what I did this morning. In my original post, it started with what she had told me. I asked her as many questions as I could have mustered in that time of shock and weakness. I felt like I didn't have all of the facts, and the more questions I asked her via text message, one question would be answered, but another would pop up in its place. I had a list of talking points and questions written down in my phone so I wouldn't forget to ask them. It was beneficial to wait to talk things out in person. We decided to both say what we had to say one at a time and agreed that I should go first. The first thing I wanted her to do was to recall the story again from start to finish, both so I could compare it to what she had already told me and she would have a chance to tell me anything she might have left out. Her story didn't change much, if at all. For those of you who didn't read my first post, or those that have read it, I'll summarize it in its entirety and as according to the real timeline after all was said and done. No more speculation. Recap start. My wife is a pretty small woman, and we both acknowledge she has a bit of a Napoleon complex. Additionally, it's apparently pretty common in the army for people to wrestle each other when they get drunk. Horseplay kind of thing. She is stationed about an hour and a half away from where we live, so they put her up in a hotel. On a Monday night, she and a group of other soldiers went out bar hopping together. Once everyone was drunk and the night was over, everyone went back to their hotel rooms for the night. However, they continued to talk in a group chat. My wife happened to mention that she was watching a certain show. Sometime later, one of the guys in the chat knocked on her door with beer in hand. She had still been drinking the beer she already had in the room as well. She let him in, and they both continued to drink and watch the show together. After about 2 or 3 episodes, one of them, we both assume it was her, wanted to wrestle. At some point, he kissed her, and she didn't shut it down. One thing led to another. She said somewhere along the way, he asked her if she was okay, and she said yes. After the deed was done, they passed out. The next morning, Tuesday, she woke up and kicked him out. She went to one of her higher-ups and talked about it. They both agreed that because it was consensual, that they would completely forget about it, like nothing ever happened. She came home that Friday after her work week was over and told me about it. Recap finished. Here are some of the questions I asked her and her responses. I'm paraphrasing here and remembering things as best as I can. I'm not convinced that alcohol was the only motivation. It's just the gasoline to the fire. Without the fire, the gasoline does nothing. You're probably right. She and I both agreed this was likely the case, and it will be apparent later on. Can you see what it looks like from his perspective? He shows up at your hotel room alone, with beer. You both keep drinking. You start to wrestle. He kisses you. You don't stop him. She said maybe she was being naive. This was someone she has known for a while, but not very well. She had respect for him and thought he could be trusted. Do you have romantic feelings for him? No. Do you regret our marriage? No. Are you ever going to reconsider making an official report to the military? No. Her reasoning here mostly boiled down to 2 main reasons. First, it would endanger her position within the military. She could be disciplined in any number of ways, cut wages, losing rank, dishonorable discharge, etc. Her second reason was that if word did get out and she was to remain in the military, it would essentially paint a giant target on her back as being the easy girl. Even if she completely regretted this and never went out drinking again, you can bet anything that 80% of the other guys would be knocking on her door every night for a chance. Even if I made a report, she said she would adamantly deny anything. Why did you even decide to tell me? You could have kept the whole thing a secret and I would have never known. Because I wanted you to know. The military strongly urged me not to tell my husband a thing because it would only complicate things. On top of that, the guilt would eat her up on the inside. At one point, months before this, she said she felt trapped because she is gone all the time and relies on me to take care of the house, pets, finances, etc. Do you still feel trapped? That might be part of it, yes. Afterwards, she told me what was on her mind and asked me a few questions as well. We both have issues with communication and have talked about it in the past. She mentioned that it felt hard for her to come home to me when she was stressed if I was also stressed because someone had to be the strong one. It really turned into a vicious cycle. I was stressed taking care of everything at home from missing her while she is gone. She is stressed from work and because I am under stress. Nothing gets resolved, and the stress builds for the both of us. We have had a few issues like this in the past, and neither of us like conflict, so it took a few tries, but eventually we sat down and had a heart-to-heart. I thought we were past it, but it still bothered her a great deal. Because of all the stress and physical separation, she felt there was never a good time to bring it back up. Even if she came back for a weekend between jobs, she would just have to leave again, and even though we would be on better terms, we would still not be together. The both of us knew that she loves dogs. I love dogs, but she loves dogs. I told her near the start of our relationship that my perfect number of dogs is 2. Dog fights make me extremely anxious. I have had stitches in my hand from trying to stop a fight, lesson learned. And when you add more to the pack, the dynamic changes and fights are inevitable. At the time, it was enough for her. Eventually, she wanted more. She fell in love with Alaskan Malamutes and purchased a few different sleds to realize a new dream of having her own sled team. We wanted different things. It happened 3 times. At one point, we had a maximum of 5 dogs living in our house, and we needed to keep them separated into 2 different groups and could not let them mix because of behavior issues. I didn't want to live in a house where I have to be super careful to make sure all of the doors are shut at the risk of taking an emergency trip to the vet. She didn't want to live in a house with an incomplete sled team. At the end of the day, I loved each and every one of them, and I don't regret having them. Maybe she was the push I needed to discover if I really didn't want more than just 2 dogs. Anyways, people say you're not supposed to have favorites, but we both did. Earlier this year, we had to rehome her favorite because she wouldn't stop initiating fights. A few months later, my favorite died at just 3 years old suddenly over the course of a few days. Both were really rough on both of us. We were even going to get matching memorial tattoos for the one that passed away. At the end of the conversation, we both came to the agreement that a divorce was the only real option here. After talking it through, we had concluded that this affair was completely consensual and her way of crying for help to get out of a relationship she was not happy with. She didn't know how to end it herself, and when the opportunity presented itself, she took her one-way ticket out of the relationship. However, we agreed that the way she handled it was neither the right nor the appropriate thing to do. The relationship should have ended when the thought first entered her mind due to the lack of communication, whether either of us realized it at the time or not. The affair doesn't fix anything, but it did put things into an extreme perspective for the both of us. She made it very clear that she was the villain in this situation, and she handled things poorly. Another point that was very important, and I mentioned it in my original post, was that we started dating as soon as we were both out of high school, over 10 years ago. I had dated another girl before her for just under a month, but wasn't feeling it, so I broke it off. Other than that 1 month, she is the only person I have ever been with, including intimately. The time frame from finishing high school to 10 years later are huge years of your life. It's a time to discover who you are as a person, to go out and discover things that you like, or things that you don't like. Instead of jumping into our own lives, we jumped into each other's. That being said, neither of us regret meeting, being friends, dating, getting married, or the marriage itself. We both loved each other greatly and cared deeply. I remember hearing somewhere, the key to finding the right person you want to marry is to find someone who is your best friend that you also want to have sex with. That description really did apply to us. We just never got the time to learn to really love ourselves first and get to know who we really are and what's important to us individually. This past year has been really tough on both of us. COVID-19 is affecting everyone and has been this whole time. We started the pandemic by both being unemployed temporarily. We lost 2 of our dogs within months of each other. She has been away from home 80% of the time. I have been home alone, stuck in the house under quarantine. If the past 12 months were a cake, it would have been made completely out of crap. Infidelity is just cherry on the top. There is no way I would be able to look past the infidelity, and there is no way she would be happy not feeling free to chase her dreams without the fear of resenting her. She always felt like she was dragging me along with whatever she wanted to do, and resentment was inevitable if it continued much longer. We both felt like she was making large life decisions that I wasn't sure if I wanted or not. That's not sustainable for either of us. So the plan now is that she has already rehomed the latest dog we were fostering and has planned for a friend to come move her 200+ gallon fish tank out of our dining room. She said I can have everything. The house, the cars, the other 2 dogs. I don't need 2 cars, so I said she can have one. As far as the dogs, I'm undecided on what to do with the remaining 2. She's making decent money now that she is active duty and has the chance to save up for an apartment of her own whenever her deployment ends. Because of the size of our dogs, 80 pounds is the lightest, it would be extremely difficult to have her take the remaining 2 dogs with her, or even just 1. They can stay at the house with me indefinitely. At this point, I have been home alone with them for so long that nothing much will change. I'm not sure if I want to keep them or not because of 2 reasons. First, it's more responsibility for me. One of her civilian jobs was a dog groomer, so she took care of that side of things. Baths, nail clippings, brushing their teeth, etc. We even have a full dog washing station in our basement. I know this sounds trivial, but imagine you were divorced by a professional chef. Wouldn't you think about them every time you made a meal yourself? The second reason I'm not sure if I would want to keep them is because it might still remind me of the 2 of us. I love these dogs to bits, but I feel like I would all too often find myself saying our dogs instead of my dogs, if you catch my drift. Arrangements have been made for both of our remaining dogs in the case that I don't want to keep either or both. There is no time crunch or rush to make a decision on my part. This is weighing heavily on my mind at the moment, and in my opinion is the most important thing to think about. We have at least 3 potential homes for both dogs lined up already, who are all eager to adopt them at the drop of a hat. As far as reporting her to her higher command, I have no plans of doing so. It feels like our marriage has run its course, and we are both hurt greatly. I wish her no additional harm. I don't want to ruin her life. She may have ruined our lives together, but she may have saved them individually. Not only that, but there are really only 3 possible outcomes if I made a complaint. Keep in mind, I'm the only person with a motive to call it in, so no matter which outcome, she would always know it was me. 1. Nothing happens. They don't investigate and the situation is the same. 2. She gets a slap on the wrist and everything becomes public. However, now everyone views her as a human target for easy sex. I don't want to put her at any more risk. I'm serious though, really thinking about this one. Would you be able to sleep at night if you knew you were putting anyone at a higher risk for being sexually assaulted for any reason? 3. She gets kicked out of the military with a dishonorable discharge and has to couch surf indefinitely while having a permanent black mark on her record almost to the equivalency of a felony. Most of the people here were very helpful. I have had long response chains with some of you, and a few others even reached out over chat and have spent nearly entire days talking things through. For that, I am truly grateful. While most of you were saying something to the effect of, "She has been cheating on you this whole deployment. Check her phone records. She's a piece of trash. Throw her away." I get it. I really do. Most people here are talking through their own life experiences. Every relationship is different, and that's an understatement. As an umbrella statement, those thoughts and mentalities are true. However, from my perspective, this is a case of both of us don't know how to communicate to such a degree that one makes a split-second decision that ultimately causes a great deal of harm, consciously or otherwise. Do I think my wife is a great person? Yes. Do I think she made a mistake? Yes. Do I think things could have ended things better without unnecessary trauma? Yes. Is my life turned upside down? Yes. If I ruined the rest of her life, would I feel even worse? Yes. Did we try our best to save the marriage? Yes. Was it enough? No. Overall, I feel better. It's almost bittersweet. I'm sad and upset that the marriage is over, but I truly want what's best for the both of us. I wasn't necessarily unhappy, but maybe I was lying to myself? I really don't know at this point. We both agreed that this was the appropriate time to break things off. I have heard the best thing to do is to focus on me, getting to know myself, and following any interest I have, which I plan on doing. It's going to be tough to get out there again because of my real lack of dating experience, and with the pandemic on top of it. Even though I have been living alone for so much of our relationship, now I am actually alone, and I feel terrified. Hopeful, but terrified.